years. And it doesn't just apply to traffic, and it doesn't just cause traffic deaths. Here's a chart that shows the number of Black Americans murdered every year from 2010 to 2020. Look carefully and you notice two major spikes. One spike came in 2014. That was exactly the moment the media decided to lie to us about the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Activists then used that false story to drive police out of Black neighborhoods in many parts of America. That was supposed to make things better. Fewer cops, less racism, right? No. Net effect, a lot of people got killed, and most of them were Black. Then there's the second spike in the last decade, the biggest one yet. As we said, it came in the summer of 2020, and it's continuing today. Same reason, same effect. There aren't a lot of trends in social science that can be explained in a single graph, but this is one of them. Less law enforcement means more crime, and over time it means more dead children, more grieving parents. You don't need to be a criminologist to understand this. It's very obvious. Even Lori Lightfoot gets it. Lori Lightfoot is the mayor of Chicago. Thanks to her equity-based policies, the city of Chicago is falling apart. People are dying in huge numbers. Shootings in Chicago jumped 60% last year. Lori Lightfoot knows perfectly well this is happening. She knows why it is happening, but Lori Lightfoot doesn't care. Lori Lightfoot is so uninterested in all of those deaths, mostly of Black people, that she won't even answer questions about them when asked. Watch this exchange. It comes from Tuesday of this week.
Every time you have a press conference, you say crime is down. The economy is booming.
Well, that's not true, but get your question, sir.
Across the street, we had a police officer on duty, the victim of a hit and run. We have Michigan Avenue, the Magnificent Mile is now referred to as the Mile of Fear. The Water Tower Place has thrown the keys back to the lender. They say they don't want to be in Chicago anymore. Real Chicagoans are asking me, how could you possibly even consider running for re-election as mayor of the city of Chicago after all the harm you've caused?
Well, I disagree with you fundamentally, and I don't think I need to address it and dignify your comments 1 second further. Next question.
Next question. So Lori Lightfoot won't answer the question precisely because she knows the answer. In the name of equity, officials in Chicago have stopped enforcing the law. And not some esoteric tax law that no one really understands. The basic laws, like you can't hurt other people. They're releasing criminals who go on to murder more citizens. This is the triumph of ideology over human life. Here's just one example. It comes from Fox's Chicago station.
The details on the offender's prior history does call into question how he was released. This document from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office says in June of 2021, 16-year-old Anthony Brown led police on a foot chase. That's when they recovered a loaded .22 caliber Glock handgun with an extended magazine. 5 days later, he was released on electronic monitoring. 14 days later, the bracelet came off and he was put on a curfew. 6 months later, they say he was involved in a carjacking. This time, police recovered a loaded Glock 9mm handgun with a round in the chamber. That's when he was put back on monitoring. In the case of Tuesday's shooting, the 16-year-old is charged with first-degree murder and carjacking. He carjacked a Lyft driver earlier in the day and took off in that same Infiniti after the alleged shooting of a teen he didn't even know.
Stories like this constantly in the city of Chicago, cities across the country. They're always the same, but the details of this one tell you everything. A criminal runs from the police carrying an illegal gun. Then the same politicians who never stop lecturing you about gun control, it's immoral to defend yourself, they scream at you. Those same people let this guy who used a gun to commit a crime out of jail immediately because equity. Then he gets rid of his ankle monitor and commits a carjacking. Then what happens? Well, Lori Lightfoot's friends release him once again because incarceration bad. So what does he do? He drives off to shoot and kill a 15-year-old. Because why wouldn't he? There's no penalty. Now, if tragedies like this happened occasionally, you would call them accidents. You would feel sad, but you wouldn't be bothered. These are not accidents. This is happening every day in the city of Chicago. Fully 43% of all criminals convicted in the state of Illinois commit new crimes within 3 years of being released, and some are released very early. That's a high number compared to other states. In saner places like Texas, South Carolina, West Virginia, the recidivism rate after 3 years is about half of that. What's the difference? Politics. Honestly, it's not a partisan talking point. It's true. For the last decade, for example, the most liberal state in the country, California, has reported a recidivism rate of nearly 50%. Now, keep in mind the irony here. They tell you that we shouldn't incarcerate people because incarceration doesn't work, and if you really want to rehabilitate people, you have to let them out. But they're not rehabilitated. That's why they're reoffending at almost 50% in the state of California. So incarceration has two purposes. One is to improve the prisoner so he won't reoffend, but the main purpose is to protect the rest of us who aren't committing crimes, who've got kids who just want to live a normal life. They've forgotten that part. So every day in California, politicians release truly dangerous criminals back into the public sphere. And this is why you're now taking a very big risk if you dare to use public transportation in the city of Los Angeles. You could be shot or sexually assaulted. And we're not guessing, we have the tape. Here's surveillance footage from LA's transit system. It's on your screen right now. It includes pictures of a woman being raped in public as she's sitting down. We're cutting some of it out. That happened in public. And it happens a lot, that kind of thing. So we went to LA for the premiere of season 2 of our documentary series. We went there because we wanted to understand how one man, a man called George Gascon, a prosecutor backed by George Soros, could have done so much in such little time to destroy the city. And of course, he did it in the name of equity. We talked to the family of a murder victim called Fatima Johnson. It was a bracing conversation.
Fatima Johnson, a mother of 6, was found brutally murdered in her apartment.
She was violently murdered, beaten to death, hog-tied, and gagged.
The suspect is a career criminal called Daryl Collins. Collins served decades in prison for 2 murders as well as a string of armed robberies.
He had quite an extensive criminal history. A series of armed robberies. He killed 2 different people on 2 separate occasions. He was under 25 when he committed those murders. He was eligible for youthful parole, and the parole board decided, oh, it looks like, you've rehabilitated yourself, and we'll go ahead and release you. That was a huge mistake.
Yeah, he came in and told my mom he was going to marry her and, he would be our stepdad. Prince Charming Bush.
Despite previous convictions for murder, and despite the fact that Fatima Johnson was bound and horrifyingly tortured before she was killed, George Gascon is refusing to add any enhancements to this case.